present moment awareness is something that's so easily taken for granted. I mean, we're here, we're in it. What else more is there to it? But it's one thing to know for an intellectual fact that the now is all there is, quite literally. But it's another thing to consciously embrace it and to engage with it. What I'll be addressing in this talk are various factors that I feel hinder us in our ability to lead a calm and peaceful life, and how present moment awareness can do one absolute wonders. Eckhart Tolle said, "Life is not as serious as the mind makes it out to be." I want you guys to leave this conference knowing that things will be okay and that you can leave with a calm perspective moving forward, but it all starts now. Firstly, to derive intangible joy is a bonus. This idea that the joy, the passion, the love you get from things that can't be quantified, can't be attached to an immediate socio-materialistic gain, or somehow not as important. And this is very much a result of the system we're in, wherein GDP is the prime measure of wealth, the prime measure of a society's progress. But as Robert Kennedy said, GDP is a misplaced metric. It captures everything in short, except that which makes life worthwhile, the intangibles. I ask you to think about when you're with a friend, a really close friend, a group of friends perhaps, and you're completely allowing yourself to be vulnerable. You're just getting things off your chest. Why are you doing that? There's something so incredibly powerful in that act that makes you just want to do it. It feels so right. So, pause in those moments. Pause and reflect in those moments and realize how incredibly powerful this act of vulnerability is and how intangibles are very much priority. They're not secondary. They're not second to something else. They are what makes us who we are. Happiness as an object. Thinking about happiness as something I'm going to achieve in a distant reality. Once I have this career, once I have this much wealth, once I have this kind of lifestyle, then I'm going to be happy. My problem with that is the idea that at what point have you achieved the necessary threshold for enough happiness? Will you ever reach that threshold? That's why I propose that we see happiness as a means rather than an end. The idea of present moment awareness as being the key to happiness raises a lot of skepticism. Some say, things aren't so great now. Tomorrow will be better. The week after that will be even better. A year from now, things will be freaking awesome. The problem with that, as Matt Killingsworth has shown, is that ultimately, regardless of the act that you're engaged in at the moment, you are, on average, more happy now. Let me break down this study. Essentially, he created this app called Track Your Happiness. And once you've registered, every single day, random questions are sent to you. Questions like, what are you doing? Who are you with? What's the weather like? Etc., etc. And you respond to these questions. And then there's a mood meter, which has very happy, neutral, quite not happy. And you adjust it according to how you're feeling. And then there's a really interesting question. That question's asking, are you thinking about something other than what you're doing in that immediate moment? And it also has an option for yes, no, and more specifically, if it's yes, is it something pleasant, or is it unpleasant, or is it neutral? The results showed that people were substantially more happy when they were immediately engaged in the moment. I know you might be thinking, okay, fair enough. What else is there more? Well, the interesting thing is people were happier regardless of what they were thinking about. Even when they were thinking pleasant things, the immediate moment made them more happy. Even people that were stuck in traffic jams were happier, quite literally, just observing the jam and thinking about something else. Why is that? Surely we can create amazing stories in here. We can take ourselves to places that are so much better than this. That's because, as Matt Killingsworth points out, our minds are unconstrained. And we can amplify anxieties and worries to the point where they're totally out of touch with reality. So remember that. Embrace happiness now. Pause. And the reasons to be happy will be evident. They'll be around you. But you won't know that unless you stop to think about it. estranged expectations. We've all had times when we're not as driven to do something. We're a bit just not invested in it. And so what do? We say, I mean, he's doing pretty well, she's doing pretty well. I must just be a bit inept. Just not good enough, I guess. The problem with this is we're ignoring the bigger question. And I would propose that that bigger question is your why. Why are you doing that? And if your why is not strong enough, perhaps it's time to move on. Or you could say, no, I'm going to make it strong enough. With time, I'll love this very task. I'll want this career. I will want it. Sure, that may very well be the case. But perhaps you're just not truly and genuinely invested in it. Perhaps it's not something which is at peace with what you want. The important thing is always ask your why. Even here, why are you here? It's important to ask yourself why at all times, at all places. Minimizing all possible risk. We're all scared of mistakes. Risk is a bit of an unpleasant idea. I remember back in school, and I would get a test back, and especially in primary school, have loads of circles, red pens, no smiley face sticker. Teachers like, well, what is this, honestly? And I would apologize. I would feel like I did something very, very wrong. And to some extent, I didn't do so well. That was my fault. But more to the point, we come to see mistakes as an end. We're scared. And as Sir Ken Robinson points out, it's very much the result of the national education system we have. He says kids aren't afraid to make mistakes, but we have a system where mistakes are the worst things you can make. You can be the most risk-averse individual, follow a very linear path, or you could be a spontaneous individual, follow a very random, sort of unpredictable path. The point is, in both scenarios, you're going to make mistakes. You can try your best to avoid them, but you're going to make some mistakes. They are inevitable. So you have a choice. You can either embrace the reality of mistakes and frame them as an opportunity, or you can fear them and see them as an end. And from that point, there's nowhere else to really go. Onerous anxiety. You're sitting with a friend for coffee, but your head is in a million different places. The next application you need to write, the next potential rejection, that next potential success. Yeah. Your mind is just not there with that friend. You might as well not be with that friend. The idea of friendship, it's a beautiful thing. It offers us the ability to grow together. But if you're not going to be committed to that emotionally and physically, then again, your presence there isn't really helping anybody. Embrace that moment. There's so much to gain from it. You worrying about this application, you're not going to get the application done. But what it is going to do is detract from your ability to grow with your friend. Remember that. Pause in those moments. Your why is strong enough. That's why you're with that friend in the first place. So stay with them. Murmurs of the crowd. Murmurs. This is a word that has evoked some interesting responses in the past from friends. What does it mean, murmurs? For me, the idea of a murmur is something that's this noise that's always in the background. It's just people always just, hey, so what are you going to do in 10 years' time? You're a nice, happy guy. Realistically, what are you going to do? And usually my response is, I'm not so sure. And they look at you a bit confused, like you're a deranged individual, and they say, all right, good luck with that. The point here is nobody is inherently wrong or right. Don't use the words of others as indisputable fact. Use them as guidance. They can offer some good, but when you start to doubt your instincts and what you know that keeps you at peace, then you're not going to be one with yourself and your interests. Larry Smith, awesome guy. Definitely recommend you watch his TED Talk. It's called Why You'll Fail to Have a Great Career. And what he says is you're going to strive for a life of pragmatism and practicality because, you can't follow your interests and your passions. It's just stupid. It's unrealistic. And then you're going to grow up, you're going to have kids, and your kid's going to say, hey, mom, hey, dad, I want to be an astronaut when I grow up. I want to be an author. I want to be a musician. And you're going to smile at them, you're going to nod your head, and you're going to say, that's cool. I had dreams too, But. That is the word that is a complete end to any discussion. You in that simple phrase have degraded the dreams of your children, and so we must strive with whatever we do to avoid ever having to use that word. Entrenched self-doubt. You've just received a rejection. What do? Guess I'm not good enough. And so this idea reverberates in your head a bit. It's on the surface. And then next week you receive another rejection. Damn, I knew it. I guess I'm really not good enough. What you've done in that simple instance is you've used that second rejection to justify and validate this belief you already have. And now it's internalized. This idea of you not being good enough, it's, as Carol McBride points out, it's very much a result of us being told as kids, when you make mistakes, that, hey, you're not good enough, that's not good enough, it needs to be done like this. And you internalize that. And so when you get older, you go on this pursuit to show others that I'm worth something. That in itself may not seem like an issue. I mean, it seems perfectly plausible. I mean, you want to show others that you're worth something. The problem here is that for some individuals, your actions will never be good enough. There's this awesome episode of Recess, one of my favorite TV shows as a kid, where TJ Detweiler, who is such a cool, nice kid, everyone likes him. And there's this one kid on the school grounds who just doesn't like him. And TJ's just like, what's up with him? Surely I can fix it. So he does whatever he can. He buys him lunch, he hangs out with him, he compliments him all the time. And at the end of the episode, the kid's like, leave me alone, I just don't like you. And TJ's like, why? He's like, I don't know, I just don't. May seem like a bit of a silly example, but the point here is you can do as much as you want, but for some people, you can never please them. What you are doing is you're degrading the importance of your dreams and your instincts. Nothing less than perfection. We've all heard it. We've all heard that dream. When I'm older, I want that beautiful car. I want that beautiful house. It's going to be good. And we want that perfect life. We want that me 15, 20 years down the road to define me. That is who I'm going to be. The problem with that mentality is that you become fundamentally dissatisfied with what is here before you. And I'm going to offer this really cool thought experiment that we're all going to do right now. So anybody that's falling asleep, and I see a few faces, I'm not going to look at you. Wake up, because there's a cool little game we got. I want you guys to imagine, seated on your lap, for example, is your 10-year-old self. And you're going to turn to your 10-year-old self, or look forward, whatever you want, in your head. And you're going to say to your 10-year-old self, hey, this is what I'm doing these days. These are my interests. These are my friends. This is what I love about my friends. This is why they love me. And then I want you to ask your 10-year-old self, hey, 10-year-old self, what do you reckon? Do you think it's pretty cool? Are you happy with where I'm at? And I think most of your 10-year-old selves will turn to you, or look back at you, wherever they are, and they'll say, yeah, that is pretty freaking awesome. I can't wait for 10 years down the road. Or however many years down the road. I can't wait to be in that position. The point here is, there was a point when all this, how you are now, was good enough. It was awesome. Whatever happened to that? Let's not forget that this is pretty good. You can improve and you can refine. That's fine and that's well. But this is pretty freaking awesome. Don't forget that. And lastly, this is not the real world. I know I've got it loads of times. Someone will come up to me and say, again, you're a pretty cool, interesting guy, but let's be realistic. I mean, you can't be going on about this stuff your whole life. You got to get a job at some point. I know I do. I need to pay rent as well. But the point here is, it degrades the importance of this moment. It's somebody telling you that, hey, without a career, without a certain standing in society, your present moment experience isn't as important as mine. The only definition that I can assign to the notion of reality is that of growth. We're growing when we're falling, we're growing when we're getting back up. We're just growing, and we fall, we get back up. That's just the course of life. And we're always growing. We were growing yesterday, we're growing today, and we're going to grow tomorrow. But the only time you can be conscious and aware of the incredible beauty of that growth is here and now. So, with that, I want to leave you with exactly what I said before, the importance of embracing this moment. You have front row seats to the most awesome show there is. So embrace it, gauge with it, love it. It's all there is, it's all there ever will be. Thank you.